In the fertile lands of Punjab, where rivers meandered like silver threads through golden fields, there lived a merchant of great repute named Mahi. He was a man of wealth, yet humble in manner and generous in spirit. His home, large and adorned with every comfort, was often visited by travelers and traders who admired both his business acumen and his kindness. Yet beneath the surface of his success, a quiet longing stirred in his heart, a longing for a companion whose soul could match his own. Not far from Mahi's town, in a village surrounded by blossoming orchards and meadows, lived a maiden whose beauty and grace had become the talk of the region. Her name was Soni, and she was the daughter of a prosperous family, known not just for her charm, but for her sharp wit, gentle heart, and a spirit unbroken by the conventions of her time. Soni's face shone with the glow of purity and innocence, her eyes reflecting the depth of emotions that words could never capture. People often said that her laughter could awaken the flowers and that her presence could calm the most troubled soul. One fateful day, Mahi, on a journey to expand his trade, passed through Soni's village. The sun was warm, and a gentle breeze carried the scent of blooming jasmine. As he rested by the roadside, he saw her tending to the garden near her home. Time seemed to pause as his gaze met hers. There was a spark, fleeting yet undeniable, a silent recognition that went beyond appearances, that spoke of souls destined to meet. Curiosity drew Mahi closer, and a conversation began. At first it was cautious, as strangers often are, but soon the words flowed like a river unafraid of its course. Mahi found himself enchanted not only by Soni's beauty, but by her intelligence and kindness. Soni, in turn, was intrigued by Mahi's humility and the gentle strength that lay beneath his confidence. Days turned into evenings, and evenings into nights, as they exchanged letters, songs, and whispered thoughts. The world around them faded. All that remained was the growing bond between two hearts. Yet love in those times was never simple. Families and society watched with keen eyes. Soni's father, though noble, was wary of strangers. Mahi's position, though respectable, could not immediately assure him a place in Soni's family. Their meetings had to be secret, often under the cover of moonlight in orchards or near the flowing riverbanks where no one could see. And so, the lovers began a journey that would test their courage, patience, and faith in each other. One night, as the stars adorned the sky like diamonds on velvet, Mahi sat beneath a banyan tree by the river, thinking of Soni. He recalled her laughter, the soft cadence of her voice, the way her eyes seemed to see into his very soul. He whispered to the river, "O river, bear witness to my heart. I am bound to her as surely as the night follows the day. Let no misfortune keep us apart." The river, in its eternal patience, seemed to murmur back, carrying his plea to the heavens. Meanwhile, Soni in her room penned her thoughts in a journal. She wrote of longing and hope, of a love that had awakened within her the courage to dream beyond the walls of her family home. "Mahi," she wrote, "though our paths are constrained by the world, my heart is free, free to belong to you, to trust in what is destined. I shall wait, and I shall believe, for love such as ours is not of mere chance, but of fate." Their secret bond grew stronger, yet danger lurked in the shadows of tradition and expectation. Neighbors began to whisper, eyes followed, and rumors stirred. But the lovers found strength in each other's words, letters, and silent promises. Every meeting, no matter how brief, became a memory etched deep into their souls. Every glance carried a universe of emotion. Thus, the first chapter of Soni and Mahiwal's love was written not in grand gestures, but in the quiet moments where hearts spoke more clearly than words. It was a love both fragile and fierce, tender yet unwavering, a love that would challenge the norms of society, confront the trials of fate, and leave a mark upon the land of Punjab that would echo through centuries. In the heart of every village folk who heard the tale later, it was whispered that Soni and Mahiwal's love began not with a promise or a wedding, but with a look, a conversation, and a shared understanding of something eternal. And so, as night fell and the river continued to flow, the lovers' hearts beat in unison, unaware that their journey, filled with joy and sorrow alike, was only beginning. As the days turned into weeks, the bond between Soni and Mahiwal grew stronger. Each encounter, whether by the riverbank, beneath the shade of a mango grove, or during fleeting glimpses at the marketplace, became a treasure of the heart. They spoke not only of love, but of dreams, of hopes for a life together free from the constraints that society sought to impose upon them. Mahi, though a man of wealth, had not been accustomed to the intoxication of such tender emotion. His hands, so often busy with the management of trade and property, now trembled with anticipation at the thought of seeing Soni. Every letter he received from her was read and reread, and each word was memorized as though it contained the essence of her very soul. In Soni, he saw not just beauty, but wisdom, courage, and the rare ability to understand him in ways that others could not. Soni, too, found her heart and mind consumed by Mahiwal. In the quiet of her room, she traced his name in the margins of her books, whispered it in prayers, and imagined a life where their love was no longer hidden. Yet she knew the dangers of discovery. Her father, a man proud of his social standing, would never approve of a relationship with a man who, though honorable, was still a stranger in their village. The lovers devised secret ways to meet. Sometimes Mahi would send a trusted servant with a message, or Soni would leave a token of her affection under a tree along the river. Moonlit nights became their sanctuary. The silver glow of the moon seemed to bless their union, illuminating the path between their hearts while the world remained asleep. But such secrecy could not last forever. Rumors began to spread, whispers carried by neighbors who noticed Mahi's visits and Soni's longing gazes. Though Soni's parents did not yet know the full depth of the love that had blossomed between the two, they began to notice the subtle changes in their daughter, her restlessness, her daydreams, her soft smiles at moments no one else could see. One evening, Mahiwal, unable to contain his longing, ventured near Soni's home. He found her sitting by a window, the last rays of sunset caressing her face, making her appear as though she were touched by divine light. Their eyes met, and in that gaze they communicated 1,000 unspoken words: love, desire, fear, and hope. "Mahi," Soni whispered, her voice barely audible, "I fear the world may try to separate us, yet I cannot deny my heart. It beats only for you, in secret if it must." Mahi took her hands in his, pressing them gently to his lips. "Soni, I swear on all that I hold dear, I will not let any force come between us. I will find a way for our hearts to be free, and for the world to know our love not as scandal, but as truth." Despite their courage, the dangers grew more imminent. Soni's father had begun to notice strange signs, the exchanged glances, the small notes, and the traces of Mahiwal's presence. In his heart stirred both concern and pride. He wished to protect his daughter and maintain the family's honor, yet he remained unaware of the full depth of her love. The lovers' hearts ached with the knowledge that their union, though destined, was at the mercy of forces beyond their control. Every stolen meeting carried the risk of discovery. Every whispered word might be overheard, and yet they could not deny the intensity of their connection. Even as society's watchful eyes threatened to intrude upon their private world, Soni and Mahiwal found ways to strengthen their bond through songs sung softly under the stars, through letters hidden in secret places, through moments of shared laughter and tears. It was during one such moonlit night, as Mahiwal stood by the river, that he resolved to confront the obstacles ahead. The river, flowing endlessly, seemed to mirror the endlessness of his devotion. He whispered to its waters,
Let my love reach Soni, wherever she may be, and let no shadow of fear or doubt ever dim what fate has joined." The river, as if understanding, carried his words to the night, a silent witness to a love that defied the bounds of society. Meanwhile, Soni, in the solitude of her room, felt the weight of anticipation and anxiety. Her heart ached with longing, yet it also swelled with courage. She knew that love of this depth required patience, resilience, and the willingness to endure hardship. Her soul had chosen Mahiwal, and she was determined to honor that choice, even in the face of opposition. As time passed, their love became a legend whispered among the people. Those who observed them sensed a rare purity in their devotion, a bond that transcended wealth, status, and fear. The story of Soni and Mahiwal spread quietly, inspiring those who heard it with the beauty of love that thrived even in secrecy. Thus, the second chapter of their tale unfolded, a chapter of deepening passion, clandestine meetings, and unwavering commitment. Though the shadows of family opposition and societal constraints loomed, Soni and Mahiwal's hearts remained intertwined. Each day brought both joy and peril, yet their love endured, a quiet fire burning fiercely amid the darkness. Little did they know, the trials ahead would test their devotion more than ever before. Forces of fate, family, and circumstance would soon converge, forcing them to make choices that would define their lives, their honor, and the legacy of their love. But for now, under the gentle gaze of the moon and the eternal witness of the river, their hearts were bound together, unbreakable, eternal, and true.
Time, as it does, brought both joy and sorrow. Soni and Mahiwal's love had flourished in secret, but the eyes of fate are never blind, and whispers of their bond reached ears that could not bear such defiance of tradition. Soni's father, though a man of patience and prudence, grew increasingly suspicious of the strange glances, the letters, and the sudden trips that kept his daughter's heart restless. Each day his concern deepened, for he feared that a love born in secrecy could bring shame or misfortune to their family. Meanwhile, Mahiwal, unaware of the full extent of the growing opposition, continued to seek moments with Soni. He rode swiftly across fields, sometimes for hours, just to see her for a fleeting moment beneath the shade of the trees, or along the riverside where the reeds whispered their secrets. Their hearts spoke in silence, their souls entwined in ways words could scarcely capture. But the world outside their love was merciless. One afternoon, a neighbor, envious of Mahiwal's wealth and Soni's beauty, informed her father of suspicious meetings near the orchard. Though the news was delivered cautiously, it ignited a storm of anger and fear within Soni's household. Her father, torn between affection and honor, called her aside. "Soni," he said, his voice heavy with concern, "there are rumors that you have been meeting this man, Mahiwal. Tell me truthfully, what is happening?" Soni's heart trembled. She knew that revealing her love openly could bring severe consequences, yet hiding it could wound the very soul of her being. With a deep breath, she replied, "Father, I cannot lie. My heart belongs to Mahiwal. He is noble, honorable, and I love him as one soul can love another. I do not seek defiance, only your understanding." Her father's face darkened. He struggled with pride, fear, and a desire to protect his daughter from scandal. He warned her sternly, "This love, if it continues, could ruin our family's honor. I cannot allow it. You must end it at once." But Soni's spirit, once ignited by love, could not be subdued. She pleaded with him, explaining the purity and strength of her devotion, the way Mahiwal's love had given her courage, hope, and joy. Yet her words, though heartfelt, met the unyielding wall of tradition. In despair, Soni began to seek ways to maintain her connection with Mahiwal without incurring her father's wrath. Messages were exchanged through hidden couriers, letters buried beneath riverbanks, and songs whispered through the night winds.
Each act of secret communication was a small rebellion, a defiance of the rules that sought to bind her. Mahiwal, sensing a growing distance, feared for her safety and for the survival of their love. One evening, under the cover of darkness, he approached her home with urgency. Their reunion, brief but intense, was filled with whispered vows and tears. "Soni," Mahiwal said, holding her hands tightly, "the world conspires against us, yet our hearts must remain true. Let nothing break what destiny has joined." "But Mahi," she whispered, "even our hearts may be tested beyond endurance. My father's anger grows. Our love, though eternal, may demand a sacrifice I am not yet ready to make." And so the lovers faced the cruel reality of the world they inhabited, a society bound by honor, tradition, and the fear of scandal, a world that demanded conformity even at the expense of true love. Their meetings became riskier, each encounter tinged with the fear of discovery. Time and circumstance placed another burden on them. Mahiwal's wealth and social position, though impressive, could not shield him from slander and jealousy. Rivals whispered ill intentions, painting him as a seducer, while Soni's family contemplated measures to separate them permanently. The pressure was unrelenting, yet the lovers' hearts refused to yield. It was during one desperate night, as the river flowed silently under the moon, that they made a pact. Their love, they vowed, would not falter even if the world turned against them. "If we are to be apart," Soni said, tears glistening in her eyes, "let it be only in body, not in spirit. Our souls are bound beyond the reach of any force." Mahiwal held her close, feeling the trembling of her heart against his own. "Even if we are cast into separate worlds, I will search for you. My love will find you across time, across rivers and mountains. For what fate has joined cannot be undone by fear or malice." Yet fate, ever capricious, had its own designs. Soon, Soni's father took stern measures, sending her away under strict supervision, arranging a life for her that would keep Mahiwal at a distance. The lovers were forced into separation, each moment apart filled with longing, prayer, and sorrow. Letters became their lifeline, the river their witness, and the night sky their shared sanctuary. Though distance threatened to dim their spirits, it also strengthened the flame of devotion. Every hardship, every obstacle was met with courage and unwavering faith. Soni and Mahiwal endured, not with resignation, but with the fierce determination that only true love can inspire. The days of separation weighed heavily on both Soni and Mahiwal. Every dawn was a reminder of their longing, every dusk a shadow of the love that could not be freely expressed. Yet, in the quiet of their hearts, a fire burned, a devotion that neither distance nor fear nor the strictures of society could extinguish. Mahiwal, unable to bear the confinement of circumstances, sought counsel from friends and elders who understood the nature of true love. He plotted discreetly, devising a way to reach Soni, to speak with her father, and to prove that his intentions were honorable and steadfast. With unwavering determination, he rode across villages, sending messages and seeking mediators who might soften the hearts of those who opposed their union. Meanwhile, Soni's days were filled with the bittersweet mixture of hope and despair. Her spirit remained unbroken, yet she felt the pangs of loneliness acutely. She found solace in letters from Mahiwal, each word a lifeline, each sentence a bridge over the distance that separated them. By the river, she whispered prayers for his safety, hoping that fate would bend in their favor. Soni's father, though stern and bound by pride, could not ignore the purity of his daughter's devotion nor the respect with which Mahiwal conducted himself. He wrestled with conflicting emotions, honor versus happiness, fear versus understanding. Slowly, the rigid walls of suspicion began to soften, though caution still prevailed. At last, Mahiwal was granted an audience with Soni's father.
With humility and sincerity, he expressed his love for Soni, the depth of his commitment, and his wish to live a life of honor alongside her. "Sir," he said, "my heart has known no joy but in Soni's presence. I seek not to defy you, but to unite our lives with respect, faith, and the blessing of your approval. Allow me this chance to prove the depth and truth of my devotion." Soni's father, moved by Mahiwal's earnestness and unwavering love, found himself torn, yet he could not resist the courage of his daughter's heart, nor the quiet dignity of the man who had captured it. After much contemplation, he relented, realizing that love, when genuine, is the truest form of honor. With a sigh that carried both relief and resignation, he gave his blessing, though with a cautious warning to tread carefully. Reunited at last, Soni and Mahiwal embraced with tears of joy streaming down their faces. The world around them seemed to pause, bearing witness to a love that had endured trials, separation, and societal pressure. Their union, once hidden in shadows, now emerged into the light, sanctified not only by their devotion, but by the reluctant blessing of family and the acknowledgement of destiny. Yet life's lessons had left their mark. Both Soni and Mahiwal carried the scars of hardship, yet these were tempered by wisdom, patience, and a deepened understanding of one another. Their love had been tested in fire and forged into something enduring, eternal. Every glance, every touch, every word became imbued with the memory of struggle and the triumph of their heart's perseverance. In the years that followed, Soni and Mahiwal became legends, their story recounted in villages and towns across Punjab. People spoke of a love that could not be vanquished by circumstance, a devotion that bridged fear and tradition, a bond that remained unbroken even in the face of adversity. Soni and Mahiwal themselves lived with gratitude and humility. Though wealthy, they found that their greatest treasure was not material, but the unwavering companionship and understanding they shared. Together, they walked through orchards, by rivers, and beneath the same moon that had once illuminated their secret meetings, always remembering the journey that had brought them to each other. And so, the final chapter of their story is written not just in words, but in the hearts of those who carry the memory of Soni and Mahiwal. Their love, tested and triumphant, became immortal, a testament to the power of devotion, courage, and the enduring truth that, when hearts are bound by fate, not even the mightiest forces can tear them apart. The river that had witnessed their secret vows continued to flow as it had before, a silent witness to a love that transcended time. The wind, carrying whispers of their story, reminded all who listened that love, when pure, is eternal, unwavering, and beyond the reach of the world's trials. Thus, Soni and Mahiwal's tale concludes, leaving behind a legacy that would echo through generations, a timeless ode to love, courage, and the indomitable spirit of the human heart.